Hey guys, today's video is going to be a book review of Babel by RF Kuang. I read this over a month ago, and yeah, this review is not very timely by the time I'm recording, or the time of editing for that matter, but it's a good book and I want to talk about it. Babel, or Babel, people do go back and forth, is very much focused on linguistics and colonialism. There's the two things that really are the key points of its narrative. So much so that I've definitely seen reviews of it going, this is just a vehicle for linguistics and colonialism is bad. That's the two things. It's just those. There's a lot of reviews focused on this book doesn't have a lot of depth other than that. And in some ways, you could be forgiven for thinking that. Babel is just all about that sort of thing. It's really trying to hammer home the whole point is colonialism is and was bad when it was in its heyday and still is now, realistically. It's just a lot more subtle. It was pretty subtle back then for the times, but like we've gotten even more subtle about it in so many ways. Babel follows Robin Swift, a young man who was orphaned in Canton and raised by a mysterious benefactor who has certainly a use for him in some way, shape or form, but it's not quite as benevolent as one might assume from that description. And there's definitely wheels turning. He's taken to England to be raised and to go to university and be useful. And he should be grateful for it, god damn it. Shouldn't be. And there are so many things that should have been done differently. But that's the nature of colonialism in Victorian England and the Victorian world. The key difference between our recorded history and the history in the book is that magic is a thing. A specific sort of magic powered by linguistics. And it's very much taking the place of the Industrial Revolution in a lot of ways. This is definitely where one of the weaknesses of this book lies, as the world building of it is just, it's not all that deep. It's got a point that it wants to make, and it's really taking a specific angle to do it at, and that is, instead of the Industrial Revolution happening in the way that it was, it's facilitated by magic, and nothing else really changes or has been changed in the history because of it. And that is definitely something that was not as well put together as certainly the world building of the Poppy Wars series. That was put together in a really good way. Like, you could tell it's very rooted in a real world situation, but there's difference from that real world situation in a lot of big areas, and it makes things quite different. This, it's trying too hard to stay close to where it was at, despite the fact that it's a very different system in a lot of ways, and that's where its key criticism needs to be. Everything else about this book, I really enjoyed it. There's so much good in it. The characters are great, the relationships are great, the conflict, everything else about this book is brilliant, but that one sticking point about the world building is the thing that keeps this from being like a near on perfect book. If this was set in a secondary world instead of being historical, it would be a lot more able to just get away from that. But instead we are mired with, this is set in our world, but technology works differently because of this. But nothing else changes. realistically. We've still got Queen Victoria, we've still got various things going on, but mostly it's the same. That's not how you do alternate history. But everything else about the book, it's just great. It's a great book. I really, really, really enjoyed it a lot. It's got so much good in it. Robin is a pretty interesting character, though arguably the least interesting of most of the other main characters. There's various other ones that would be just as good as him. What I've heard said about Hamilton once is that it needed to be focused on Alexander Hamilton, who's not necessarily the most interesting or best character in the play, in real life history, because he was the one that connected all of these disparate parts and all of these different people, and that feels very much the idea behind Robin. Is could have done it about a bunch of different other characters, but he's the one that's connecting them. In this case it's more artificial because he's a created character rather than a historical person, but still there's some argument there to be made about choosing your main character, and he was the one that needed to be it for the nature of everything else, but at the same time he definitely was one of the less interesting characters, and a lot of the other ones were surrounding him could have been slightly more interesting main characters than he was. I definitely had RF Kuang in my good books already because I read the Poppy War series, and while it's just absolutely harrowing, it was such a good series. It really did a lot of good in it, and I really did enjoy it. So this benefited from that. I think that there's definitely areas that it could have been better though. It was a really good book, there was so much good in it, but I think that world building problem is the thing that scuppered it for me in a lot of ways. It's so good in every other way, it's so well written, it's done so much good, but if it had been in a secondary world instead of being alternative history, it would have been so much better. That's all. So that's my thoughts on Babel by RF Kuang. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read it, what you thought of it. I'd love to know, so tell me down there. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you remember to like and share it and subscribe to my channel. Click on the thumbnails over there to see other videos by me, click on the link in the description down below to join my Discord, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!